रधनत राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। Hare Krishna and welcome to Sri Sri Radha Radhanath's morning program. So today we're going to be reading from the book entitled I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu Story by His Holiness Giriraj Swami. So before we begin, let's do some invocation prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmenitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Sacha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So before we begin, I'd like to humbly beg you for your blessing so that I may be able to speak something that is pleasing to the heart. So Srila Prabhupada was once asked, what pleases you the most? And there were many devotees around. There were many devotees around. There were the book distributors, and they thought Srila Prabhupada is going to say that the book distribution pleases him the most. And then there were the deity worshippers, all the pujaris, and then they thought that Srila Prabhupada will say that deity worshipping Lord Krishna will please him the most. And like that, there were so many different categories, and they all eagerly waited for Prabhupada's answer. And Srila Prabhupada said, if you love Krishna, that's what pleases me the most. So, Srila Prabhupada gave us this Vrindavan. He gave us Krishna. And there was one devotee in Vrindavan. He was very, very attached to Vrindavan. He was always chanting, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. So Prabhupada asked him, his name was Vishal Prabhu. So Prabhupada asked him once, said, you like Vrindavan? He said, yes, Prabhupada, I love Vrindavan. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. And then Prabhupada said, you like Vrindavan? Take Vrindavan. So Vrindavan is not something that we can easily achieve. But by the mercy of Prabhupada, just with one flick of his hand, he could say, take Vrindavan. And he has given us Vrindavan. He has given us Vrindavan in all the festivals that we worship or observe. Like yesterday was the grand Jagannath Puri Ratha Yatra, where there were millions of people. So by the mercy of Prabhupada, he has given us Vrindavan. I mean, we can look at Sri Sri Radha Radhanath. There's so many festivals that we worship, and that is Vrindavan itself. So, like that, the mercy of Prabhupada, he has given us Vrindavan. When we look at Uddhava, Uddhava, one of the very close associates of Lord Krishna, and he was very, very Krishna conscious. He would only eat remnants of Krishna Prasad. He would dress just like Krishna. He would do everything. In fact, he was so Krishna conscious that he would look exactly like Krishna. And many times the people mistook him for Krishna. Uddhava was so Krishna conscious. But when he went to Vrindavan, he realized that the gopis and the devotees in Vrindavan, the Vrajvasis, are far, far more dedicated to Krishna than he will ever be. And therefore he prayed to become a creeper within the forest of Vrindavan so that he could taste or experience the dust of their lotus feet. Now, in the same way, Lord Brahma and the demigods, when we look at, when we read Krishna book and the appearance of Lord Krishna, when Mother Bhumi, Mother Earth was, she was troubled by all the demoniac forces, and she approached Lord Brahma. And then Lord Brahma, together with the demigods, went to the milk ocean and they prayed to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, through telepathic information, he spoke to within the heart of Brahma that he will appear on the earth and he will vanquish all the demoniac forces. Now, just this example shows us that the demigods, even the highest personalities within this universe, do not have access to Krishna as Srila Prabhupada has freely given it to us. He has given us Vrindavan so freely. So how grateful do we have to be to Srila Prabhupada? It's unfathomable how grateful that Srila Prabhupada has to be to. He has given us this Vrindavan so freely. Now I realized that especially when we went on a tour to South India a few years ago, and there we, especially like to the temples of Balaji, the popular temples in South India, and there are massive crowds. And we went with a group of 80 devotees, and our leader was Ratim Krishna Prabhu. And for days, he would guide us and he would tell us, you'll need not get lost. We actually had like rehearsals of how you should enter the temple, and you should, he put us into like groups of 10 with a group leader, and you mustn't lose sight of your group leader, because they were so worried that the devotees will, get lost and things like that. So anyway, we enter the temple, and after days of preparation, hours of waiting in the queue, sometimes some devotees have experienced that they got to wait like 2 or 3 days before they get darshan. And after days and hours of preparation, you only get like a 30-second darshan of the Lord. But Srila Prabhupada, in all his ISKCON temples, you can gaze at the Lord for hours and no one will push you around. No one will tell you, okay, it's enough, you had enough time now, please move on, there's others. So this is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that he freely gave us Vrindavan. So we have to appreciate what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Now, once Srila Prabhupada was traveling from Chennai to Nellore by train with all his disciples. And there were a few businessmen who approached him. And they said, Swamiji, please give us your blessings. So Prabhupada, he looked at them. He knew what they were looking for. So he asked them, what blessings do you all want? What are you all looking for? What blessings do you all want? So the one businessman, he said, my grandmother has arthritis. Can you bless us so that she will, get better? So Prabhupada looked at him, and he looked at him, with this disgust. And then he looked at all his disciples, and there they were, dhoti kurta, clean shaven, all his disciples, and he looked at these businessmen and he said, if I bless you, you will become like them. And slowly, all these men slowly disappeared from there. So, when we look at Srila Prabhupada, the blessings of Srila Prabhupada is what he has given us most, is this Vrindavan Dham. So these men were looking for material blessing, and Srila Prabhupada could give them the highest blessing. It reminds me of a pastime in Vrindavan where there was this lady she was carrying a bundle of wood, and the wood fell down. And she called out for Krishna. And when Krishna appeared before her, he asked her, what do you want? The Supreme Lord is appearing before you. And she said, please put the bundle back on my back. So this is like the businessmen. Here they have Srila Prabhupada, and they could ask the most appropriate blessings, and they were asking for material blessing. So what Srila Prabhupada has given us is truly amazing. And I thought I would just glorify him, because this part of the book that we are about to read, the Juhu story, is very grave and somber. It's the latter part of the book where Srila Prabhupada, it's his final days. And we're going to begin on page 528, if anybody has the book. And Srila Prabhupada he was taken to Rishikesh. At this time, his health was in a very deteriorating state, and the devotees had arranged for him to go to Rishikesh, where he could recover with the atmosphere, the purifying atmosphere, and they hoped that this would help him with his health. So we're going to read from page 528. We were all hopeful that in the peaceful spiritual atmosphere and cool temperatures of Rishikesh, and with water from the Ganges, Prabhupada would recover his health. The day after he left, I wrote him. This is His Holiness Giriraj Swami that's narrating. We hope that your divine grace is enjoying your stay in Rishikesh, and we hope that this letter will find you in improved health with increased appetite. Mr. Mohata came to Juhu yesterday to discuss our problems with ECC and the other contractors. I reported, after having the different arguments regarding payment and not paying ECC, Mr. Mohata suggested that we should pay them for 2 or 3 lakhs now. He said that if we refuse to pay anything, we would expect a delay in the work. So he suggested we make a small payment with a note to ECC that we are still very dissatisfied with the speed of the work and that they should complete and leave so that we can settle the final bill. After reading him the contract, it was apparent that all of the terms are in ECC's favor, and at the same time, he said that his man would check the bills in the next few days. Amongst the conditioned souls, Mr. Mohata is an expert businessman, but you are a pure devotee, and you have advised that we pay nothing. We are always ready to stand by your decision. And if you feel that we should take Mr. Mohata's advice, then we request you to send us the letter to present to the Bank of America, instructing them to pay ECC 200,000 rupees against their bill, number 11 and 12 for January and February. We'll present this letter to the Bank of America only after receipt of the next inward remittance from abroad. So we see there were so many challenges with the building of this temple in Juhu, and the contractors were such an impediment in the entire process. But Srila Prabhupada was unrelenting. So Srila Prabhupada agreed to the proposal, but with provisions. As Mr. Mohata has recommended, I have enclosed a letter to Bank of America advising them to make payment to ECC for the amount of 2 lakhs, he replied. This letter, as well as other letters advising a transfer of 6.5 lakh rupees to State Bank of Hyderabad account, should also be presented to Bank of America after they advise you that they have received Guru Kripa Swami's $100,000 and not before. But Mr. Mohata should be shown all the bills so that he can check them. I am not at all in favor of paying them any more money until the final bill is presented. In regards to his health, Prabhupada wrote that yes, it was improving, but only very little. The house that we have been given is the best in Rishikesh, he assured us. It is very nice, and the climate is much better than Bombay's. Many persons are coming in the afternoons for darshan. Within a week, however, Prabhupada felt like he was soon going to leave his body. At 1:30 a.m. on the 16th of May, he called for Tamal Krishna and said, "As I was telling you, the symptoms are not good. I want to leave immediately for Vrindavan. If I am going to die, then let it be in Vrindavan." There weren't any train reservations available, so Prabhupada went by car with Tamal Krishna and Upendra, with Damodar Pandey driving. When they stopped overnight at the Delhi temple, devotees offered Srila Prabhupada Mahaprasad, but after a taste he said, "Eating is finished. I prayed to Krishna to be freed from eating and sleeping, and it is happening. I have already given up mating and defending. Now all the material activities are finished." On the way to Delhi, Tamal Krishna noted that Prabhupada seemed content. "You look very happy to be going to Vrindavan," he said. "Yes," Prabhupada confirmed. "Vrindavan is my home, and Bombay is my office." When he got to Vrindavan, Prabhupada announced that he had come to leave his body. "If death takes place, let it be here," he repeated in his arrival address. "There is nothing to be said new. Whatever I have said, I have spoken in my books. Now you try and understand it and continue your endeavor. Whether I am present or not present does not matter. As Krishna is living eternally, Similarly, the living being also lives eternally. But kutir yasya sa jivate, one who has done service to the Lord lives forever. So you have been taught to serve Krishna. With Krishna, we'll live eternally. Our life is eternal. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. A temporary disappearance of this body, it doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance. Tata dehantra praptir. So I live forever by serving Krishna. On May 17th, I wrote Prabhupada. This is His Holiness Giriraj Swami again. I wrote Prabhupada with news of Bombay and also expressed my appreciation and gratitude to him. 2 days later, Tamal Krishna wrote in his diary, Srila Prabhupada received a letter from Giriraj. He offered loving prayers to Srila Prabhupada, especially the prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, 28. When Prabhupada receives such letters from Giriraj, he appreciates them very much. He closes his eyes and drinks in every word. He has so much affection for Giriraj because of his faithful service. Giriraj never became fearful even when his life was threatened. He never felt a difficult service, but remained always cool-headed, considering only Prabhupada's desires and not his own. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam sateva bhajami aham. Prabhupada called for the movement's leaders to come to Vrindavan and be with him. He asked that they chant for him, and he made arrangements for his will and other documents and procedures to ensure the smooth and the proper running of ISKCON and the BBT and safeguard its properties after his departure. Devotees would come to his room in shifts and do kirtan and sometimes read to him. But even in that condition, Prabhupada remained focused on Juhu and took action to ensure that the required funds were arriving. On May 18th, he wrote Guru Kripa in Japan. For some reason, temples are not sending in as much money as was expected to the BPT. Rameshwar Swami says he cannot afford to send any money for completing Bombay at this time. Therefore, I am hoping it would be possible for you to continue to send $100,000 monthly for finishing the Bombay project. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Hare Krishna. And he concluded, I was staying in Rishikesh hoping to improve my health, but instead I have become a little weaker. Now I have come back to my home, Vrindavan. If anything should go wrong, at least I will be here in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is for residents, Bombay is for organization, and Mayapur is for worship of the Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 3 days later, he wrote to me in Bombay, I am very glad to learn that you are getting spiritual encouragement and strength. Krishna will give you all power. You have persevered throughout all difficulties and acted as commander of our army there in Bombay, and always you remained cool-headed throughout. Remain faithful, and Krishna will give you all intelligence and strength how to organize everything very nicely. I was encouraged, but I was extremely anxious about Prabhupada's condition. I wanted to join him and the other leaders. So, within a few days, I was on a train to Vrindavan. There, 2 days after, Prabhupada wrote to me. He told the devotees, as Tamal Krishna recorded in his diary, your love for me will be tested how after my departure you maintain this institution. We have glamour and people are feeling our weight. This should be maintained, not like Gaudiya Math. After Guru Maharaj's departure, so many acharyas came up. Later, Tamal Krishna told Satsvarup that Prabhupada had said, "Your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate and keep this institution together after I am gone." The same message. As Bhakti Charu Swami recalled, when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan during his last days, Tamal Krishna would read him the letters that devotees wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and his divine grace would dictate his replies, and sometimes he would also make comments. One devotee had written, and he wanted to offer his longevity to Srila Prabhupada so that he would continue to be with us on the planet. It was a very sweet letter, steeped with emotion. However, Srila Prabhupada reacted in a rather unusual way and commented that our real love for him should be shown by how we cooperate with one another to continue his mission. That incident left a deep impression in my heart, and I became aware that the best way to show my love for Srila Prabhupada is through my cooperation with the devotees of ISKCON who were serving his divine grace sincerely to continue his mission. Srila Prabhupada made the same point in a letter in 1973. The test of your actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate. So we see that was Srila Prabhupada's most inherent desire. Then Giriraj continues, when I arrived in Vrindavan, Prabhupada asked me about Bombay, and I helped him make the legal and other arrangements requested. One of his concerns was that ISKCON's properties should be protected. He brought this up the morning after I arrived, and I reported back to him later that day. This morning he gave the hint that there might be envious persons coming to take away our properties, I said. So in the GBC meeting here, we discussed this point. A committee of 6 of us was made to resolve this. Basically, we made a model trust deed, which would be used for all the Indian properties. There may be 3 trustees for each property, and the basic point of the trust deed is that the property rests with these trustees and they have no right to sell or mortgage or dispose of the property in any way. That was the basic point. And then we proposed that the 3 trustees, and then we have proposed the 3 trustees for each of the properties. So the bulk of this chapter speaks then about Srila Prabhupada's arranging those trustees and drawing up his will for each of ISKCON's properties. So I have chosen a few pastimes here that I would like to conclude with, and one of them is Prabhupada showing mercy on a living entity, a slug. Now, this is quoted by his disciple Govinda Dasi. Now, while he was in America, Prabhupada once had a mild stroke. And after hospitalization, he was taken to a beach resort in, I'm not sure, I think it was San Francisco or California, I can't remember. But it is in New Jersey. He was taken and there to recuperate, and Govinda Dasi and her Prabhu and another devotee were taking care of Srila Prabhupada at that time. And this, she's recorded in a book called Srila Prabhupada Uvacha. So if you want, you can download that on ISKCON Desire Tree. There are many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples' books that you can read in PDF version that are not available here in South Africa. So I thought I'd read this to you to just show you the mercy that Srila Prabhupada extended not just to human beings but all living entities. In late afternoon in New Jersey, Srila Prabhupada would often sit downstairs in the garden beside our bungalow. New Jersey is known as the Garden State, and the town of Long Branch was certainly testimony to that. There were gardens everywhere, roses were blooming, and their fragrance filled the air. On one particular afternoon, Srila Prabhupada was comfortably seated in a chair, and I was sitting on the ground beside him. Now this is Govinda Dasi Mataji that is relating this. He was softly chanting japa, enjoying the fresh ocean air, mixed with the fragrance of roses and flowers. Occasionally he would say something, but mostly he would chant softly. Suddenly, beside my sitting place, I saw a large brown slug in its slimy ugliness. Somewhat repulsed, I leaned away from the creature. Srila Prabhupada looked at me quizzically and I said, "Ugh, look at this." So she was pointing at the slug, pointing to the slimy, sliding creature. Srila Prabhupada leaned forward, looked at the slug. His face grew full of love and compassion, and he said to me, "Chant to the poor creature." And so I sat there chanting Hare Krishna to the slimy yet benedicted slug for some time, until he slithered away. He had incredible compassion even for the most abominable creature. So we see Srila Prabhupada's compassion is unlimited. Now I will conclude with this one pastime that has touched me very deeply. Once the devotees had arranged for a program in London, and it was towards the outskirts of London, away from the temple in Bury Place. And Srila Prabhupada had called his cook. Now it's Mother Shilavati that is relating this pastime, and she was his main cook. And Srila Prabhupada called her and he said that there will be many dignitaries attending this program, so I would like to, for you to arrange a nice feast. And she thought dignitaries, especially in London, maybe cakes, biscuits, sweets, that kind of a thing. And he said, no, puri, sabji, rice, dal, halwa, and especially gulab jams. So it was fine. She was happy to arrange all of that, but the only anxiety she had was that they are going to be transporting this prasad from the temple in Bury Place to the venue of the function. And especially gulab jams, remember, it's soaked in syrup. So taking a taxi, her anxiety was that she will spill this gulab jams or spill the syrup in the taxi. But anyway, the devotees arranged the prasad, the program happened, and everything went well. So while they were driving back, it was a midday program, but it finished towards the afternoon, and it was drizzling slightly. And they noticed that Prabhupada was tearing. On his way back to the temple, he was tearing. Now, within them, the devotees were anxious. Now, what went wrong? Why was Prabhupada tearing? So, now who is going to have the courage to ask Prabhupada what went wrong? So anyway, they arrived at the temple, and Prabhupada went up to his room. Now all the devotees, they assembled in the temple room, and now they're discussing now who is going to have the courage to ask Prabhupada what went wrong. So anyway, they said to Mother Shilavati that the prasad was very nice. At least he won't be disappointed with you. At least he won't be upset with you. You ask, we will all be there behind you. So she said, okay. So they all went together to Prabhupada's room. And they bowed down, offered obeisances, and then she spoke. And she said, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, did you like the program? Prabhupada said, oh yes, the program was very nice. Did you like the prasad? Oh yes, the prasad was very nice. And then she said, but Prabhupada, you were crying on the way back. What did we do wrong? And then Prabhupada looked at all his disciples and everyone that were in the room, with big eyes and a grave look. And he said, did you not see all the people that are suffering? And who was he talking about? It was late afternoon, so all the people that were coming from work or returning home from wherever, because it was raining, they had to walk home, and some were waiting in the bus shelters. So these were the people that brought tears to Prabhupada's eyes. So imagine the compassion that Prabhupada had for all living entities. And this is the compassionate nature that drove him from Vrindavan to go to the West to rescue all of us. So devotees, how grateful do we have to be to Srila Prabhupada? It's unfathomable. We have to be so grateful to him for all that he has done for us. I'll stop here, and I'd like to request now if you have any questions or any comments that you would like to add to the class. Hare Krishna. Any comments? Anybody? Sorry, Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu, would you like to add any? Mother Shilavati. It was quoted by a devotee, I think it was Gaur Gopal Das. He quoted it on one of his lectures. Hare Krishna. So we'll end here now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.